Regents podcast. The Regents podcast. Welcome back to the
Hey.
Regents podcast. Hey, everybody.
Welcome. I am Aja Moye.
I'm Ellen.
Yes. And we're so happy that you're here.
Yes.
We are two best
friends
who quit
their jobs
to pursue
their passions. We
That's
almost
it.
pretty much got that.
Yeah. There's a natural delay.
Yes.
But yeah, we are super excited that you're here. We have something great to chat about today. And Ellen will be happy because unlike all these memes that are floating across the internet, I actually do have a list of movies that I do intend to watch. Because if you know me, you know that I haven't seen any of the movies.
Yeah.
It's a rarity when I do find one and actually watch it.
And no shame and no shade to not having seen movies, as I don't want to be a part of the people who shame people for having not seen something.
Has shamed me.
I just feel like, oh my God, you haven't seen it? You haven't seen it, but it's not like you should feel bad. I'm just shocked that you haven't. Does that make you feel bad when I'm shocked you haven't?
It?
Does that receive, do you receive that
it doesn't, I really take it
yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'm not taking it that seriously.
Okay.
Because everybody knows, it's just a thing. They're like, she probably hasn't seen it. Don't even ask. Especially older movies. Nowadays, since I have a movie buff husband, sure, I'm seeing movies. We spoke about Dune. I was like, oh yeah, I've seen 1 and 2.
That's incredible because I still haven't seen 2.
See, look at me.
Yeah.
But older movies, if it's a classic, nope, not.
Yeah. No, I get that.
But I did. So Google has this amazing feature. I love Google. They need to endorse us.
I'd like a sponsorship, please.
Absolutely. And I vouch for Google all the time. So they have this feature where you can look up a movie or a book and put it on your watch list or your to read list or whatever. So I do that.
Okay.
And I was looking the other day and I was like, you know what? I want something kind of I don't know, warm and fuzzy. This movie really didn't. It kind of did in some regards, but I didn't really know what it was about. Okay. So I was like, oh, it's love, a love story. It said romance/drama. So I was like, all right, let's go for it.
I know what movie you're about to say, and everyone is about to be like,
they're going to be like, what wasn't it, girl?
You went into it thinking romance.
I did. I totally went into
cute
it
love story.
My gosh, romance,
yeah,
black love. Let's do it.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, sign me up.
The movie was If Beale Street Could Talk. All right.
Do you want to give a little synopsis?
So it chronicles a love story between two young people. They have a relationship where they've known each other since, childhood, and now they've blossomed into adults, and they're like, you know what? We're attracted to each other, we love each other, whatever. However, there's a whole wrench thrown in all of that because, spoiler alert, people, the guy in the relationship, forget the actor's name, he's amazing though. He gets accused of raping a young woman in their neighborhood. And so during this movie takes place in the 60s or something like that. So there's a lot of civil, injustice and racial injustice, against African Americans, etc. So when this woman accuses him of rape, he immediately goes to jail, and there is just all the odds are stacked against him.
Yeah.
So he ends up spending, and that's really what the movie is about. I mean, yes, you see how much love they have for each other, how much she loved him to fight and to, her mom travels to Puerto Rico even though they don't have the money, and her parents, or her father and her father-in-law, are doing illegal things just to make ends meet to, carry his lawyer fees. So all of these things are done out of love, and that's the romance part about it.
Yeah.
And then she gets pregnant. But unfortunately, because all of the odds are stacked against him and there's just honestly no hope, he has to end up taking a deal, and he's in prison, and she gives birth to their son, and he has to, see his child across the little prison table or whatever.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild, okay? Not really what I had in mind when I
Not
started
that
the
like
movie.
warm and fuzzy, cozy love story you were
No,
looking
I
for.
was looking for like, "Oh, okay," but wow, but man, I was
Yeah.
crying like the whole thing.
Yeah.
Regina King, one of my absolute favorite
Amazing.
actresses ever, is
Yeah.
in this movie, and during a particular point, in the movie, her daughter, which is the young lady in the relationship, is pregnant, and she's in turmoil, and she's, like, sleeping, having a nightmare.
Mm.
And Regina King, her mom, comes into the bedroom with her, and she knows that her daughter is, like, just going through it, like, because her husband is in jail and she's pregnant, and she knows that he didn't do it. They all truly believe that he did not do it.
Yeah.
And there's also another whole thing, which is another topic for another day about, why this woman accused him of it, whatever. But she says this thing to her, and it really stood out to me. So here's the quote, which is why we're going to talk today about LOVE. This is a quote
Love.
from If Beale Street Could Talk. Quote, just remember, love brought you here. If you've trusted love this far, don't panic now. End
Mm.
quote. I'm going to just say that one more time
Yeah. Say it
for
again.
effect. Okay. From If Beale Street Could Talk. Just remember, love brought you here. If you've trusted love this far, don't panic now.
Mm.
When I heard that, I cried again.
Oh.
Because I just was so taken by that statement.
Yeah.
I think it applies to literally everything in life, not just the romantic situation. I thought about our podcast,
Mm.
and our career pursuits and all of that, because it's all love. We have a
Yeah.
passion, a love for music, for social, and for, influencing people, and for entertainment and comedy and all these types of things. It comes from a foundation of love.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we've trusted love this far to take this big old leap where we've left, corporate, we've left everything that felt stable,
Yeah.
etc., then we have to trust it to see it through, to
Yeah.
continue forward, and to really like go after gung ho the
Mm-hmm.
things that we've always dreamed about since we were those cute little girls in that
Mm.
episode 7 weeks ago. Um, so it just really resonated with me, and I loved it, and would love to hear what you think of that quote after you've
I
reheard it.
Yes, I think it's such a beautiful quote. I think it's like, Olive, don't cry. I love you too.
Oh, see, we love
It's
Olive.
I know we love her.
Me
I
too.
think that there's something super powerful about the idea of like trusting a
Mhm.
feeling, trusting an instinct, trusting something like love, right? It's like an intangible, tangible thing. And
Yes.
being able to trust in that feeling in yourself. There are so many opportunities for self-doubt to creep in, and
Mhm.
for in so many ways, like in relationships, in pursuit of your passion, career, like whatever. Like there's so many opportunities for you to question your own
Mm.
drive, your own um commitment, that's the word,
Mm.
commitment to certain things.
Yeah.
And you always do have to kind of come back to like a touchstone, to like a reality of like,
Mm.
if you trusted love this far, what's the rest of the quote? Don't panic now.
Don't panic now. Just
Yeah. So it's
remember,
like,
love brought you here.
exactly. So it's like, if you've trusted yourself, like I literally was just doing affirmations the other day about this. Like,
Mm.
if you've trusted yourself, you've made good decisions for yourself up to this point in your life, 35 years on this earth, and you've been making good enough decisions for yourself to get you to
Good enough.
places, to get you to where you need to be.
Yeah.
And even if something feels like it's not working out, it really is just like, God closes a door, he opens a window, right? You
Right.
have to look at things like that, because otherwise it can feel very scary, and it can
And
create panic
hopeless.
inside and feel
Yeah.
hopeless, right? So if you can really trust your own internal compass, and also like just really look at it as like, I have made many, many, many decisions up to this point, and those decisions have led me here, and I'm
Mhm.
good. I'm okay. I am not going to distrust myself now. I am not going to panic now. I'm not going to, you know, fall out with myself. I'm not going to panic now in
Mhm.
things are stressful. Things are like, it's easy to trust yourself when things are going really well, right?
Of
It's
course,
easy to
right.
believe and feel the love, right? When things are going great. But it's really tough. It's really tough
Mhm.
when things are hard. And it's really hard to remember, like, okay, I know myself. I know how to get through this. I've made good choices for myself. I was just um watching Love is Blind, and this
Okay.
one of the girls on the show was like, yeah, like maybe there's going to be a couple of tough years in this marriage, right?
Mm.
Maybe it's going to be 5, 7 years. It's going to be really rough. Maybe there's going to be a patch where we don't
That's
like
a
each
long
other for very
time.
much, like da da. And the guy said, he's like, that's a really long time. That's
Yeah.
a long time. Like in his mind, he was just like, babe, that's divorce time. Like, let's go.
Exact 5 to 7
But
years of
you know,
unhappiness.
but you know what? It made me think of I think it's in Michelle Obama's book where she talks about there's like a good 10-year stretch for her
Mm,
and President Barack Obama
right.
where there was turmoil between them. It was tumultuous. It was difficult. It wasn't the best part of their marriage. It was rocky.
Mm,
And she was
mhm.
like, there was like a 10-year stretch of like
Wow.
just difficulty. I mean, again, I could be misquoting it. Let me just double check because I feel like 10 years is a really long time.
That's a whole
Let me just
decade.
check. Let me just check.
Child.
Michelle Obama, 10 years. 10 years unhappy question mark. I don't know. Oh, she said
The
Michelle
things
Obama
we
said she
ask
couldn't
people.
stand her husband Barack Obama for 10 years.
Mm, she couldn't stand him.
Yeah, she said she wasn't happy with Barack for 10 of their 30 years of marriage. Okay, so maybe it wasn't like it wasn't like consecutive
Tumultuous,
10.
like,
I
maybe.
wonder if it wasn't
Uh,
a consecutive 10. Maybe it's like a
maybe it was a
cumulative
certain
over time.
time.
Yeah, like, okay, for these 2 years, he was such a dick. Like, okay, for that year, he was being an asshole. Like, but this
Then
year it
he
was
was
good.
president, he thought he was a
Yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I have to I actually need to like really find that quote because this is like really not something
Yeah.
I should misquote. I want to make sure I get
No, not
everything
at
right
all. We
for
do not
Queen
wanna get
Michelle.
anything wrong with
She
the
goes,
Obamas because we love them.
okay, she goes, we've been married for 30 years, she said in an interview with Gayle King, Queen.
Mhm.
If I if I fell out with him for 10 and we had a great 20, I'd take those odds anytime.
Okay, so she didn't
She
say
said, no, no,
that.
no. She said, Obama made the remarks in response to a question from King about her recent claim that for several years of her marriage, she couldn't stand her husband. The
Mm,
former First Lady and author went on to discuss the challenges of marriage. In this day and age, marriage is more about the dress and the dresses and the proposal and the honeymoon and all the stuff around it. And young people aren't ready for for the realities of marriage. A lot of young
mhm,
people quit on marriage over things that are just part of the commitment. I share these
mm,
things because marriage is hard. It's incumbent upon us, people who have had successful marriages, to be really honest about the fact that making a commitment to be with someone means you compromise, and compromise ain't always fun. And don't
mm.
add kids to the mix because they really mess up your life. She said,
Michelle said that?
she joked. Yeah, who has two
I
daughters.
love her, though.
She goes, she goes, it echoes a similar claim in 2022 when Obama said there were 10 years where I couldn't stand my husband and her
Mm,
daughters were very young.
mhm,
And she was working in a law firm, and then, you know, the kid,
mm.
like it's a lot. So anyway,
It's a lot.
all that to say that
Mhm,
I think it is interesting that when it gets really, really hard, right? It's easy to just be like, no, I'm done. I'm good. I'm out. Like, I'm going to change path. I'm
mhm.
going to change career. Like, oh, no, now I'm going to just like, oh, this isn't working out. Social media, like, whatever. Okay, I'm going to go open
Next.
like a coffee shop in like some remote village somewhere in like the middle of Arkansas. And it's like, no, like that's not been the path. That's
No.
panic. That's being
Yeah.
scared. That's freaking
That's
out,
panic
like
trying to
pay
pivot.
attention to what your North Star has been when it's been easy to see the North Star, when it's been easy to hear your
Yes,
inner
yes,
voice.
yes,
Because when it's
yes.
not easy to hear it, when it's not easy to hear that love, that's when you have to trust everything that's led up to when it gets difficult. Right.
Oh
So
my
it's like
gosh. Yeah.
when and again, I can't speak, I'm not married. Right. But I'm sure
Mhm.
that you could speak to the like, there are days where you have to remember why you love this person, why you married this person, like
Mhm.
why we're together, why this, why that. Like there's so many times, that there's like an opportunity to be like, ah, right? Like, it's like, ah, how did we get
How?
here? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
How?
what is going, how are we here? But I think that
Yeah.
it's the thing of like, I trust myself and I trust the decisions I've made up to this point. And even though right now it might be really, really hard to see it,
Mhm.
I trust everything leading up to this point.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
curious because like only one of us on this podcast is married. Um,
Only one of us.
and like there's a lot of marriages around me, friends and family and parents, whatever. And I think that people do marriage in a lot of different ways and a lot of ways that make
Mhm.
it work for them. Like my parents have like publicly, it's public knowledge for consumption, also part of my own narrative. They separated when I was younger, but they didn't divorce,
Mhm.
because sometimes if you really can't stand someone, have them move out, what it is,
Mhm.
see what happens, and see if you want to come back together. And I think that like that in particular, like marriage, making things work, it it's very individual. How do
Mhm.
you come back to that sense of love? How do you remember where the choices were about the person, about the decision in life? I'm kind of curious because, like I said,
Mhm.
I am not married.
Yes.
As a married person, I think, and again, marriage is like, it's that step further than just being with somebody, right? Because you
Yeah.
can be with someone forever. You don't have to get
Forever.
married. You
You
don't
don't.
have to get married. You can stay with someone, you can be together forever. But when you do get married, it does create something a little different.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And again, it
Mhm.
has to do with how the couple perceives marriage as well, right? Like a couple that doesn't
It
get
has
married
everything to do
but
with
always
it.
wants to be together, it doesn't mean that they're any less together. But I'm curious for
Right.
you, like love in your marriage, love being in a marriage, like did like
I
do
love
things
this.
change when you get married? You know what I mean? Like do you feel like
Yes.
there were things that changed?
Yes. But I want to discuss this or answer this question like twofold
Okay.
because there is the romantic love part, spousal type of love. But also in this particular situation with this quote and making it universal
Yeah.
about love in general, I think there was a lot that you just said
Yeah,
prior
I
to
spoke a
mentioning
lot.
the yeah. There were so many things that you said,
Yeah.
but there was something that stood out in my mind. It was just like, relinquishing control, relinquishing control.
Mm.
Because when it comes to remembering, right? And I think that's something that we all have to do, no matter what it is, whether it's love, career, parenthood, whatever it might be. You have to remember why. So you're just
Mm.
like, okay, love brought me here. Love brought
Mm.
me to you. Love brought me to this position in my life with my career or whatever. And when she tells her in the movie, don't panic now, it's because we want things to go the way we want them to go. And we
Mm.
want to have control over that situation. So if it's career, it's like that. If it's love, it's in the way that I want, my partner to do X, but they're doing freaking Y.
Mm.
And it's just like, don't panic. This is what, if things aren't going the way that you expect them to go or that you want them to go, just remember love brought you here. It'll pan itself out or whatever. So that's something I just really kind of um heard reverberating in my head because I'm just like we panic when we lose sense of control.
Mm.
When we don't have control over the situation, things
Ooh,
aren't going the way that I expect them to go. So now I'm
that
just going to go
part.
the other way. And
That
it's like,
part.
oof. Yeah, right?
Instead
So
of like sticking with it and going through the uncomfortable
sticking
time.
through it. Yes, exactly.
That's
And
the
just
big one.
trusting, being uncomfortable, recognizing that there is discomfort. I'm tolerating it. I'm accepting it for what it is and realizing that, things are going to work out in my favor because love has brought me this far. It didn't bring me this far to bring me just this far, you
That's what
know?
Kim K said. She said, I didn't come this far to just come that far. No, but
Thanks for
seriously, that's
that.
like a Kim Kardashian quote. Someone was
I
like,
mean,
oh, but
I don't
she,
recall it from Kim, but
like,
I'm sure she said it.
it's not like it's like the craziest quote ever, but it's just the fact that she
No,
did
it's a
say
good
it.
quote.
I didn't come this far just to come this far.
Seriously.
Yeah, but it's like, don't give up
So
now. It's like you're already
don't give
like,
up now.
I think that that's
You're
such a
already
big
in
thing.
it.
I so see where you're coming from with that of just like, don't just give up when it gets hard.
Yeah,
It's one thing
right.
if things, situation becomes untenable, whatever, but like it's
That's
it's
true.
another thing if you kind of can identify that like it's discomfort.
Mhm.
If it's discomfort versus a breakdown. If
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like I think that
Yeah.
that's a big thing
Or
like
something
right?
that's
Like
detrimental to you, you know?
in the pursuit of like your passion, your career, like whatever, it's like yeah, there's gonna be times where it's, like, hard and it gets difficult
Mhm.
and, like, you get stressed out, and, like, I very much feel like I've been articulating and speaking to that, like, feeling
Yeah.
stressed and feeling like it's a discomfort that I'm not used to, but it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that, like, what I'm doing or the path that I'm on is, like, wrong or that
Wrong,
I
right.
failed up to this point, you know what I mean? And that's a faith thing, that's a have faith kinda thing, have faith
And
and don't
all
panic.
all that really is just you being refined. To me,
Mm,
it's just like, if you know that you know that you know that you're on the path that you need to be on and things are maybe rough or you're going through a phase or whatever it is, you just have to trust like we said, but also make sure that you are kind of believing in something greater and all of those things. And just I think there's something so important about making sure that you keep, and that we talk about this a lot, about keeping like the end in mind. And if you
mm.
keep your focus on whatever it is that you thought about in the beginning, then that can kind of lead you through.
I know
But
it's so tough though, because like, we're always growing, we're always changing. And I feel like you have to like allow for the goal or wherever you're trying to go, like to change and to evolve as you grow and you
mm,
change, right? Like the end goal doesn't always have to look like what you thought it was going to
what
look
you
like
thought.
originally.
And that's another form of like just allowing things to be and not controlling every
Mm,
single aspect. And I have
mm,
this quote. It's actually on this little store right here. It says, mm, if the plan doesn't work, change the plan, but never the goal.
mm.
So, and I kind of take that with a grain of salt because I also feel there's validity in what you're saying too. Like, you may have imagined to reach a thing and it looks a certain way,
Yeah.
but be okay if you've done all the things and you've allowed life to happen and you've sat in the discomfort and you've worked through things and all of that type of stuff. If it looks a little bit different, find solace in knowing like that's okay,
Yeah.
and being content with that um when you get to that like end goal or whatever it might be. And I think there's another belief in, I think it's called happy discontentment
Mm.
or something like that, because it's just like, okay, I'm not it's not that I'm unhappy or like totally discouraged with where I am, but I'm hoping for more. I'm
Yeah.
content and happy with where I am. I'm grateful for where I am, grateful for what I have and, my
Mhm.
health and all these different things. But I also have hope for more.
Yeah,
And,
like I know like I'm okay with where I am right now, but this isn't where I'm gonna stay.
right. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So, all that to say, I think there's two ways to look at it. Change, if the plan doesn't work, change the plan, but never the goal. And that's also, I think, a different way of looking at, don't allow the discomfort to pivot you, a
Mm.
whole 180 degrees to the point where you're not doing anything that you really recognize.
Yeah.
But also, on the other side of the coin, be okay with if things kind of mold into something and transform into something a little bit different.
Mhm.
That's just the thing that you couldn't see, you know?
Yeah,
And
that's
that's the
true.
part, and that's the beauty, I think, in life too, because we don't know how things are gonna turn out. We
I know
can
that's so annoying. I can't stand that actually. Can't really
It's
stand that.
so annoying.
Ugh.
Right, because we just wanna be like, "Okay, I wanna write my story and it's gonna look just like this. No problems, I'm gonna end up on top, and I'm in love, and I'm happy, and I'm doing the"
Yeah, what's wrong with
But
that? No, I'm just kidding.
what's no one wants to hear that story, that's
No, it's
what
so boring,
it's so
actually.
freaking boring, and we
There's
hate
no,
you.
like, actual, like,
We actually
narrative to,
hate
like,
you.
a success story that goes from A to B. I have to
That
tell you,
just went
there's
like this.
such a good example of that is, like, when an actor or something will be like, "Oh, yeah, like, was just, like, walking down the street and like, casting director came up to me, booked me for this movie, and I just have been working ever since, it's been I'm just, like, really grateful.
It's
I've
been
been just
super blessed.
so great," and everyone's just like,
Like,
who cares? It's like, no, I want to hear about the person who was like waiting tables and
who
like,
fell
oh
on their
yeah,
face
I
8
worked at this
times.
bar. Yeah, like, oh, I got
Yes.
cast in this movie and then I never got cast again for 5 more
For
years.
10
And
years,
and
yeah.
now I'm like, I've been working at this diner and then out of nowhere, like I got this booking and like how now here I am. Like I just was
Yes.
listening to this guy on this podcast who's being interviewed, and
Mhm.
he's not this like mainstream, majorly famous actor. He's just been like in a couple like things. But he was like, I was living in like a 3-bedroom apartment with 5 people. I was like sleeping
Mm.
on like an air mattress. I was, like he was just like detailing like
The
the level of
lifestyle.
what
Yeah.
he was going through in his lifestyle. Exactly. He's like, I was
Mhm.
hosting at like 3 different restaurants. He's like, I was constantly skipping on out on jobs so I could go for like callbacks and stuff.
Auditions,
And
yeah.
literally, he's like, I had like no money. He's like, then I booked this movie. The next day I went in for another like in-person callback, and then he said he booked it. He was flying first class for the first time ever out of the country for the first time ever, staying in a gorgeous hotel for the first time ever, being in this
Yeah.
movie, this TV show that became very big on Netflix. And he's like, my life,
Wow.
he's like, you guys talk about followers, like, oh, your follower count went up. He's like, my entire life changed
Mm.
overnight. He's like, I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
never been on like in a better seat than the back of a plane. And like he was really like, you don't like, it's just crazy to see like stuff change that quickly. And it's
Yeah.
also, I think, when things change that quickly, we're
Mhm.
talking about like being in the thick of it and it being difficult and the struggle. And we're talking about like remembering why you did this and why you came to it and not trying to pivot because you're uncomfortable. But like then on the other side, and we talked a little bit about this already, like that fear of success, but like when things work out and change,
Yeah.
it's almost like it changes. Sometimes the change can be so quickly, or
Right,
things
so dramatic.
so dramatic, or something works
Drastic,
out and you're
yeah.
so happy, song,
Mhm.
you put your EP out, God willing, song goes viral and things really start to happen. Like imagine this
Yeah.
podcast, God willing, takes off out of nowhere,
Yeah.
goes viral, people start really paying attention, and
Yeah.
then we have to get comfortable with a new thing, which can
With
be
the new
uncomfortable,
Yeah, exactly. Because
and
then it's a whole
remember
period of adjustment. Like
and remember who we are through the swirl, and be really clear on
Yes.
like who we are, where we're going, not letting like new voices, new people coming in. You
Mm,
should get this
right.
cut. You should get that
You
cut.
can do
What
this
about,
and you can do
you could be
that.
doing this. What about another podcast?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we really have to remember
Yes.
to
Stay grounded.
stay grounded and like trust the love,
Mhm.
trust the spark, trust the thing that brought you here,
Right.
especially when things start to swirl, and whether it's panic or whether
Yes.
it's change, you
Mhm.
really have to remember that like there was like an
That's good.
honest, earnest truth and love. I
Yes.
mean, just specifically even about the podcast, right? There's like an honest, genuine relationship at the core of
At
this
the core of
podcast.
this.
This podcast
Yes.
could go away and we're
Yep.
still going to be doing this exact same thing.
The exact same thing.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
Right.
and then
With or without
God,
a mic.
exactly. And then God willing, this podcast takes off and
Mhm.
then becomes a vehicle for our personal things to explode. Maybe we personally
Right.
blow up and then the podcast blows up because of it, or maybe the podcast blows up and then our
And
stuff
then we
starts
blow
to
up.
blow up. You just never know like the
You're
order of
right. You
operations
never
of things.
know.
But at the end of the day, just being really clear on that like honest, true
Mhm.
core of it, and trusting
Right.
that and coming back to that because, more people, the more voices that kind of come in. And I think you speak about this a lot with regards to your relationship and marriage of like,
Mhm.
I don't invite outside opinion and outside voices into my marriage. My marriage is between me and my
Right.
husband. And I
Mhm.
think that that's a similar thing in a lot of relationships. It's like you don't want to invite too many other people's opinions into the mix of decision making and into the mix of,
Absolutely. Too
oh,
many chefs.
exactly, exactly. It's like, when, we get an agent for the podcast, right? We have a
Mhm.
manager, like it's a me and you thing. It's never going to be like just Ellen or just Aja. Like this is an us
Right,
thing. So
right.
we're
This
never
is
going
a
to
us
have
thing.
somebody third party come in and be like, "Oh, I'm so excited. I want to back you guys. I'm all about it." And then they like only wind up talking to one of us. It's like that's not going to work.
Right. That's
Do you know
not
what I
gonna
mean?
happen. Yeah,
And then
exactly.
knowing like you want to work with people who understand like the crux of it is like love and friendship. So
Right.
like then you'll start to attract that type of energy in other people who
Right.
understand, you know, that
What it is at its core. And that's
exactly.
exactly what the quote tells us. Love brought us here.
Yeah.
Our love for each other as friends
Yeah.
is how this cultivated over the course of what?
I
15
mean,
years.
sisters. Like, I mean, we could, like
Sisters.
sisters,
Absolutely sisters. And that's what
sisters.
love brought you here. Don't panic now. Don't get all flustered by all of the
Yeah.
things that are happening on the outside. People who are now trying to come in and get a piece of the pie. Uh-uh.
Mhm. You can't have any
This
peace.
started because you can have no pieces. This started because of a true like sisterhood, a genuine love for each other.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to remember. And that's what I love about that quote because obviously you're watching the movie and you see it for what it is in that particular
Mm.
moment. But I was just so taken aback. I was like, and I literally like looked it up as soon as she said that because
Ugh.
I was like, I love that. That is so universal. It is not just about romantic. It's about our podcast. It's
Yeah.
about our journeys, as entrepreneurs in our career. It's about your friendships. It's literally about like absolutely everything because at the core of everything,
Mhm.
it's love. Like love is the thing that it makes the
I
world go round.
if you lead with love, I
Mhm.
think and that's like a big thing. I think, even just talking about like I don't want to offend someone, like I'm worried about like ever hurting someone's feelings. Like if you lead from a
Right.
place of love, like if
Yeah.
you try to always lead from a place of love and like that's kind of like where you're coming from, like you can feel pretty confident that like you're putting out into the world what you're hoping to receive and what you're hoping
Right.
people receive from you.
And it
I
will be
think.
good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
100%. Wait, I just had a thought, me just always like in brain thoughts coming in.
Always.
Regina King was also in a Cinderella story from which we also quoted the Babe
No,
Ruth
I did
quote.
not because I didn't see a
Oh,
Cinderella
that's right. You didn't
story.
see that one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She was in it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
early in her
Look at that.
career, small
See?
role. She probably was like, "What is this rinky-dink teenage movie that I'm
Yeah.
gonna do? Who knows all these people that are in it?" She's like, "Hilary Duff, who? Chad Michael Murray, what?"
Right,
Also,
right.
speaking
Oh,
of
Chad
like
Michael
people who have had success that have like come and gone and come back around again, Jennifer
Mhm.
Coolidge was in that movie as well. And
Oh,
she kind
love
of
her.
like she had her Legally Blonde, she had her Cinderella story moments, but in like American Pie. But then things kind of cooled off for her. She really was like struggling and she's spoken about that.
Yeah.
And
I
then
saw
Mike,
her speech at the
yes,
Emmys or the Golden Globes,
Golden
something like
Globes. Oh
that.
my gosh, she's so
Yes.
funny.
It
And
was
then
so
like Mike
good.
White really kind of like reinvigorated her life by putting
Yes.
her into White Lotus. And it's like,
Yes.
you look at Regina King and like, yeah, I know her from so many things, but yeah, she did
Mhm.
have a small role in this Cinderella story
Right.
movie, which is like truly like it felt like a made for TV Disney movie. I can't believe those
It
movies.
did. It
I can't believe
did.
those movies actually got like theatrical releases back then because it's
I
like
mean, it was Hilary Duff and
I
Chad
know, but
Michael
even still,
Murray.
it's like it doesn't really feel like it's like a theater release kind of movie, but it was.
Correct. It was.
Um,
Mm.
and the fact that like that like Regina King would go on to have this like truly like
Illustrious career.
illustrious career and a career
Yeah.
that people would like look to and be like, wow, like how do I do that? And she like
How do you put that together?
by sticking with
Yeah.
it and staking true. And like she found something that she's truly passionate about and like
Yes.
just
Uh,
kept going for it and kept going
yep.
for it and kept going for it. And,
Yeah.
you know, you
Mm.
can you can be discouraged and you can be like, "Oh, it's not happening for me. I'm just going to like, try something different." Or you can be like, know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So even if I don't like reach something that I thought I was going to, I'm going to know that I've lived a life that I'm proud of because I was doing the thing I wanted to do the whole time.
Right, exactly. And that's what I think we all have to come to terms with. Like if nothing else pans out the way that maybe you wanted it to or whatever, are you
Yeah.
happy with the decisions you've made to
Mhm.
get you, to where you are today?
Mhm.
Maybe your end goal didn't happen, but if you're on the path that you've always wanted to be on, or you're living in the place where you always wanted to be, you felt a connection to that place, whatever
Yeah.
that is for you, you have to make your decisions out of that from that, perspective and lens.
Yep.
And that's another part of that value based kind of decision making that we've talked about before. It's like if I'm making my decisions based on not my circumstance, not how things
Mm.
look today, but if I'm
Mhm.
making it on, the list of priorities that I have, if it's those three things for me, it's God, family, business. If it's following that order, then everything else is easy for me. I don't have to
Yeah.
go ping pong in my head back and forth about what I'm going to do. If it's out of the priority list. If it's out of alignment with what I've already said my goal and my plan and purpose is, or what I feel I'm called to do, then it's out. That's
That's
easy.
so like I think a lot of people would say that's easier said than done. I think
Mm,
people and myself included, like I worked on getting my values kind of like clear so that I could make
yeah.
decisions a lot easier and like be like really clear, right? And it's
Yeah.
like once you get there, then you it's very clear where decision making is, and it's very clear of like, does this serve me? Does this not serve me? But I think that there's
Right.
a lot of fear to get from 0 to 1
Mm,
of getting clear on those values, because once you're clear on those values, other stuff has to you have to
has to.
cut other stuff out to make way. And
Yes,
it's
you got
like
to cut the fat.
and it's true. It's like, I mean, it's in all things, right? It's like it comes down to like,
Mhm.
when you decide that you want to start like engaging in boundaries and making sure that you have an understanding of like what boundaries are. And when you
Right.
want to start, I think a lot of people, especially I think a lot of people struggle when they start going to therapy and
Mhm.
then they start to change and then the people around them notice it and don't like it. And they're changing
Yes.
for themselves. They're changing in a
Yeah,
positive way for
for the
themselves,
better.
and
Mhm.
it creates chafing sometimes with the people around them, and then they're like, "You're changing. You're this." And it's like,
I am.
"Okay, well now do I value what that person is saying in that relationship more than what I know I need for myself?" And that's
Yeah.
where I think again it kind of comes back around to like one if you can get from 0 to 1 with understanding of like your own values, what's important to you, how, you can evaluate decision making. Like if the goal is for me, right, it's like authenticity, safety, and like joy. Like those are things
Mhm.
that are like really important to me in life. Like, is this bringing me
Yeah.
joy? Is it bringing me safety? Safety is, and again, these are like some broad terms, but like
Yeah.
if that thing or the feedback I'm getting from someone or whatever is not in alignment with like what I've decided are my values, are core to my existence,
Mhm.
then it makes it easier for me to be like, I hear you, but
But
that's not really going to be impacting my decision making.
yeah.
That's not really
Right,
going to
right.
play a factor in how I am going to move through this
Mhm.
moment. And I
Yeah.
think that thing can be a little bit scary to get really clear, because I think we talk about this a lot. Like once you know, right? The Maya Angelou
Mhm.
quote, like once you know better, you do better. Once
Yeah.
you start to see things more clearly and you get really clear about yourself and who you are and how you decide make decisions and what's important to you, it becomes a lot easier to trim the fat.
Oh,
But you
yeah.
have to be able to get to what is the most important things to me.
Mhm.
Truly, like truly the most important things, not any kind of like performative, oh yeah, this is what's important to me, or like I love my family, but then I like talk shit about them all the time and they make me feel horrible and I'm
Right.
actually not close with them and I don't agree with half the things they say. It's like, okay, well then maybe you were raised to say family is number one. For you personally, maybe you were
Yeah.
raised to say family is number one. Nothing's more important than family, 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 family. But then maybe you're having like a huge moment of cognitive dissonance when like your family is perhaps like the root cause of a
To
lot
your
of the problem.
downfall.
But exactly, like just because
Yeah.
you were born into that family doesn't mean that they're actually like healthy for you. Like I think a
Right,
lot of
right.
people even struggle to come to that reality.
Yeah, of
If you can
course.
come to that reality, if you can come to the reality of anything, right? Like, you're born thinking one thing or you grow up in a family that's this, but then that no longer is a truth or serves you. It's
Mhm.
hard to get from that zero place of like, oh God, to
Yeah.
okay, cool. Like I'm really clear on like what my value system is or like how I make decisions or how I need to move or how I need to operate. But once you
Mhm.
do get there, like you were saying, like faith, family, friend, like I forget how you
Yeah.
said it, faith, family,
God,
business,
family, business.
God,
Yep,
family,
exactly.
business. Like once you get
Mhm.
really clear that those are things that are your guiding light in your decision making,
Mhm.
it does become clearer. I wouldn't
It
say things
does.
are easier necessarily
No.
because sometimes decisions are really hard because they're in
Decisions are
conflict,
hard. Absolutely.
with each other,
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I would say like getting clear on like your own value system and like,
Oh my gosh.
what's going to
Makes a
serve
huge
you.
difference.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that. That is so poignant. It doesn't always make it easy, but it makes it clear
Yeah.
what you
Oh,
should do. Because, just because something is simple does not mean that it's easy.
oh my God,
But
truly doing the
all
hard
those
thing.
right. And, in what's not enforcing, but implementing those
Mhm.
boundaries or making a decision because it could be something super exciting maybe for your business, but it's to the detriment of your family. Do we really want that? No, because and the thing for me too is that it's in that order,
Yeah.
so it's not like, oh, it's going to propel my business, but I have to,
Yeah.
sacrifice or compromise on my morals. Or
I
like
mean,
I said too.
that's a huge thing. I mean, that comes back to like my authenticity value of like,
Mhm.
we've spoken about this. Like, I won't work with any weight loss brands, like weight loss explicit brands. I won't work with them. There is money to be made, people. Let me tell you, I am
Yes.
passing up on check after check.
On checks.
Let me tell you.
But she can
But
sleep at night.
exactly. Exactly.
Yes, right.
There's a lot of opportunity to compromise your morals. There's a lot of
Yeah.
opportunity to compromise your value system in this
Mhm.
world. And again, I think it does come back to that like if you trusted love, don't panic. Like I trust myself, I trust what's getting me where I'm going and I'm not
Yeah.
panicking and in the panic, I'm not making negative and bad decisions for myself. Like
Yeah.
working with all of these weight loss brands. It's not that I'm not anti weight loss, girl. I wish
Mhm.
what if I could. It's
Yeah.
not that. It's that I don't want to contribute to perpetuating a narrative that you need to lose weight. I want it to
Right.
be I don't want to contribute that. I want like any kind of weight loss conversation to be individualized. You yourself, I don't think that you should be
Right,
seeing
right.
media where people who look like you are telling you that you need to lose weight. And I'm
Mm.
no one's before photo. I'll tell you that much either also, because that's what it feels like a lot of those ads are.
Right, right. Exactly. That's a good point. Right.
As I say to
Need
that,
your before photo.
say to that to your before photo.
I am the glow up.
Yeah,
So
I am the glow up.
jokes.
I'm the glow around. I'm the star. I am
I'm
all
the
the
glow
above.
around.
Okay.
Right.
So that, but there, I think that again, like to your point, like even ranking the like, okay, like, God, family, business, because,
Mhm.
I think a lot about, and this is such like a specific thing I think about, like, I do. I think about this actually like probably too often. But every year on
Okay.
Thanksgiving, we
Huh.
watch the Macy's Day Parade, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And every year on New Year's, we watch, New Year's Rockin' Eve.
Okay.
And I think about the artists, the musicians, the actors, the dancers, all these people that have to work on these
Mhm.
holidays, right?
Right. Right.
And think about, they're missing out on time with family if they're not going to be able to go home to wherever their family is. And, I have, God love, I'm going home again. Christmas, Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'll
Praise
always
him.
gotta go all the time. And it's it's important. It's important to my
Mhm.
family. I know it's important to people in my family that I am there. I'm physically there and a part of. Now I understand. they would understand if I was obviously performing in the Macy's Day Parade. They'd be
I
so happy
mean,
for me, obviously.
right, of course.
I don't know what I'd be performing,
We
like
get to
stand
see
up.
Ellen on the you're on the float. You're on the
No, so
float.
here's the thing. I would be like the Jimmy Fallon where I'm like singing a backing track with like Elmo or
Yeah.
something. Like I would
Right,
be,
right.
you know what? I'd much rather just like chill with Al or like Hoda or like,
Mm.
I'm like first naming them like we're friends.
Yeah,
Al
Al
Roker
and
and
Hoda.
Hoda Kotb. I'd love to do the sit and chat thing.
Yes,
That
sit, look cute, be warm, drink cocoa.
100%. Like I will bring the
Absolutely.
fiercest Thanksgiving fashion.
What? And a
But
red lip? She'll give
uh
it.
um, but I think about that. I think about those people and like that they have to
Mm.
sacrifice on probably one of the higher values in their life
Yeah.
because their career and their passion and the thing that makes them the happiest, right? Doing this career,
Yes. Mhm.
that's when there can be like this dissonance between, right? Like
Of course.
all those values and you have to then make the decision
But here's the thing.
still.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you mentioned that. I think about the same thing when we watch football or basketball, like on
Mm.
Christmas when they have the
Ah,
Christmas show, like the NBA game. Like, oh,
so
I'm with my
true.
family, watching these people play, whatever. There's always going to be a Christmas show game for
Yeah.
basketball, and there's always going to be like a Thanksgiving Day game for football. In a situation like that, like, obviously, these people sign contracts, right?
Mhm.
So, you can't not
Yeah,
play.
there's
But
no
I think
way.
the other there's no way. I think the other beauty, though, in something, in those types of positions is that you can and I've always loved this when people are like, "Oh, my family, they live in I don't know. They live across the world someplace else, because of their job or whatever it is. So we always celebrate Thanksgiving a week before, or we do
Mm.
Christmas, the following week after. It's a lot
Yeah.
more calm. Like everybody's, not running around crazy, like crazy people,
Yeah.
da da da. And so it's just like you're still putting, and that's where we talk about like it's simple, but it's not easy, right? So that's a
Mm.
perfect example. It's like, okay, well, this is something that's obviously gonna, because the other the other caveat to all of this is, let's just use the sports example or the Rock and Eve, whatever. I hope these people are getting paid well, one.
Who
I know
knows?
the athletes are, but I don't know
I
about
was
the
gonna
Rock and
say
Eve.
the
It might
athletes can
just
fly
be
their
like
family in.
exactly. We're
Who
gonna be
knows?
in Minnesota, like whatever.
Yeah, who knows
But
about the musicians and the artists,
it
and we
might
could
just
talk
be
about
like
pay another time.
right. It might just be like a resume thing, like performed for blah blah
Yeah.
blah. But if we're talking about the athletes who are getting paid very well, whatever, their business, their career, their passion also provides for their family. It gives them the
Mhm.
flexibility to do all of that. So it's not that I'm just because, Thanksgiving fell on a Thursday, Thursday, whatever. It's like I still celebrate with my family and we have this understanding because kids know what you tell them. Okay. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, they might hear it at school or whatever. It's like, no, 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 we celebrate Thanksgiving on Saturday. You know that. Like, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And you create that narrative around the way because you have to balance. And that's
Mm.
again like the part where we're saying it's simple, but it's not easy. And you are
Mm.
gonna have to find compromises throughout life. And I'm certain and I'm pretty sure both of us have had those experiences already where we did make value-based decisions. It was something that, mattered to us, but we had to kind of make a concession someplace else, but
Mm.
found a way to still make it all align with what we
Yeah.
needed to. It wasn't this like hard cut, like, sorry, mom and dad, I'm not coming for Christmas and I won't see you until next year. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. You see my
pause.
eyes?
Let's
My
just
even my eyes got bigger. I was like, "Mm."
never.
Yeah.
And another example, a real life example for me, was going to China. I was in China. Now, very big important things for me, my parents' birthdays, a
Mhm.
family reunion. My family has a large family reunion with like 100 to 150 people every other year. That was the first time I had ever missed a family reunion in my life, and I had
Mm.
gone ever since they began, like since '89. They started in '89. I was at every single one,
Wow.
and I missed it because I was in China. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it was just like, okay, I cried because
Mm.
guys, I cry, but
Aw.
but it was, and that's not something that I could like get back. It's not like I could have
Yeah, you
another
can't
family
yeah.
reunion, you know what I mean? But it's just like, okay, sometimes you do have these tough
Yeah.
dissonant type of situations, but
Mhm.
you realize that, your ends justify your means or whatever.
And also, like, sometimes it's like, what is it? Like the temporary uncomfortable.
Mhm.
What's that? There's another quote like that is just like, don't, give up on something because it's temporarily like uncomfortable. Like that.
Right.
What are you going to do? Like jet back and forth really quick from China? Like financially, it just doesn't make sense, especially
It
at that
doesn't
point in
make
your life.
sense.
And you're like, it
Exactly.
just doesn't make sense to do that. And it's like that. Yeah,
Right.
that's tough. Like that's a tough thing when
Yeah.
you're missing out and you like wish you could be there. I think
Right.
that's a really good example. I think the
Mhm.
athletes one is also a really good example of just like, it is what it is. Like I have to do it, but maybe we can endeavor to actually
Mhm.
make the holiday a different day or an earlier day or a later day.
Right.
Like you
Yeah.
can still make the effort to do
Yes.
something instead of just missing it entirely and acting like, oh, whatever.
Right,
It's
and
not
just
like
being
whatever.
like, "Well, you
Yeah.
guys know I work every Christmas
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. And
whatever."
it's like, you know what? That's like, that's
Mhm.
fine. But if family is so important and it feels like a big miss out and feels like a big,
Mhm.
like sad letdown, then like you can tell people like, hey, what if we did like second Thanksgiving or we did this or like let's get
Yeah.
together again, Like I
Right.
think that's such a good point. Like I always thought, like truly in my head, I was like, wow, one day if I am ever in the Macy's Day Parade,
Mhm.
at least my family's all in New Jersey. So then I can like go to them
Ah,
after the
right
parade.
after.
Like that's literally
Absolutely.
like I've thought these things in my
As you
head.
should.
You know
As
what
you
I
should.
mean? Like same thing with like
No,
New
that's
Year's Rockin'
totally
Eve.
believable and understandable.
Yeah.
How would I
This
do this if I'm in that
like literally
situation?
I've like gone through the logistics in my head. I'm just like, okay, well
Yeah.
this would make sense if I did it this way and like da da
Right.
da. But it's like, making room for both.
Absolutely. Why not?
you
Shoot.
know?
Because
That's
'Cause they'll be
so
happy to
funny.
see you and,
You'd be
or if
like, you
they
were
come to
just
the
on the
parade
TV
or
and now
whatever.
here you
Yeah, and now
are.
you're here.
Now you're here. I'd be like,
Oh,
yeah, give
man.
me a plate of food,
Right. Give me the plate. Give
please.
me the stuffing. Thank you.
Immediately, yeah, stuffing.
I mean, because I haven't
Immediately.
eaten all day.
I haven't eaten at all. You see me on that float? Have you seen? I was shaking it for
I
$1.
was
Give me some
working it,
stuffing.
trying to make them holler for
I'm
a
just out
dollar.
here trying to make a buck, trying to put food on the table for this family.
Literally
Who
food on
pays
the
for the
table.
stuffing? Could you imagine? That's probably
Oh my
that's probably like
gosh.
J Lo because like where she's like performing in the
Seriously.
Macy's Day Parade. She's like New York native. She goes home and she's just like, "Who do you think put this on the table?"
I put the Thanksgiving food on the table. Give me a plate.
She's just like, "I
I
have to
could
take the
see her.
subway to get here uptown." It's so
Oh my
chaotic in
god.
the
It's
city.
crazy out there. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
you're all watching it from my penthouse apartment. I had to go work.
And y'all didn't save me any
You
cheesecakes?
didn't even save
What?
me a bite. Imagine.
Imagine. Talk
Imagine.
about tight is what I would
Oh,
be. Like, I'm
oh
sorry, there's
yeah.
no what? There's no more what?
I'd be like, I'm so
Can't
sorry. Did
be.
you guys eat
It
all of
can't be.
Thanksgiving without me while I was performing? Because
For you.
for you to be able to put together such a nice meal.
Right. Oh man, I
Like,
love
get
that.
out.
Everybody out.
Everyone out. Put forks down.
Put them down. No take home
Don't
plates.
take a bite more. I'm going
Not
to eat all
one.
of everyone's foods off their plate.
Oh man,
You
you're not
just
getting any
you
leftovers.
just sit there on the
None.
couch watching the DVR of you in the parade, just like eating stuffing from like a tinfoil
Oh my
container, just like.
gosh.
So that's like if family's
Whatever.
not really important to you guys, okay? That's the
Absolutely.
kick them
Yes.
out if
You
you
kick
don't
them
really enjoy
out
them.
and shove it in their face that you paid for the whole spread.
Yeah. Be like,
Oh
"Oh, do you guys have
Lord.
something to say? You can all leave. I paid for all of this."
Right.
Talk about
Did you pay for
control.
anything?
Talk about
Oh.
control.
Yikes. Yikes.
I
No
know
one
that's
would be
the
there.
yeah, that
Um,
uncomfortability with like without control. Oh goodness. I said
yes.
to my mom, this is like years ago. I was just like, yeah, like I'm pretty go with the flow, right? And she was like,
I remember you telling me about this.
yeah, I told you this story. Yeah. And I was like, I have gotten better
Right.
with that.
Notice that
No,
I've improved.
wouldn't you say? Like it was like that. She was just like, yeah, I think like, over time. Yeah,
Sure.
she was just and I'm just like, well, I am
Oh
I am
my
go with the flow.
gosh.
I just don't like when people are chaotic. about plans and
Yes.
chaotic
Yeah.
about
Oh,
making like
girl,
choices and
we've
decisions.
talked about
We've
this.
talked about that,
We don't like
That's when I
oof,
lead with love and I
yikes.
leave the
With
situation.
love.
I leave with
Yeah.
love. Hearts to you. Good
Yeah.
luck with this messy plan.
Right, right, right.
I'm
But I'm
out.
outie. I'm
I gotta
outie.
go. That doesn't align with
Yeah.
my values at all. I don't.
Chaos, not a part of my
Yeah,
plan.
chaos is not a part of. Yeah, I do not appreciate chaos. I think you can be calm in chaos. I think that chaotic things could be happening, but I think if
Yeah.
you're like operating from a place of chaos, that's stressful. I think it's fine if things
That's
erupt into
impossible.
chaos because that's just life. But if you
Yeah.
just kind of live in chaos, nah, I'm good. I gotta,
Absolutely not.
yeah.
And gosh, that's a whole other story
I
for
know,
another
literally, that's
day.
a whole other thing.
Chaos.
Leading with
Organized
love.
chaos is a different thing.
Oh, yeah. And I
Yes.
honestly feel like a lot of times organized chaos is kind of like it is what it is when there's a lot of balls in the
Yeah.
air and there's a lot of stuff that is out of your control and you're kind of waiting for
Yep.
answers from all these different people and da da da. And you have to find a way to make sense of
Of
all of
that.
this happening. And that is,
Yeah.
I feel, and I agree, like organized chaos is something else, Like when
Right.
there's like a bunch of piles of mail and you're like, no, 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 it's organized. Like I know what all of
I
the
know
mail,
what's
I know
happening
what's all
here. Yeah.
happening. It might look like a little bit crazy to you, but like this is a
But
system.
it's all good to me.
This is a
Yes.
system. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
I know. I agree. I agree with that. But if we're connecting back to the quote and the idea of like
Mhm.
leading with love and like trusting yourself, trusting your own emotions, your love, your heart, trusting yourself with what got you to where you are and not
Mhm.
panicking in the discomfort of the lack of control or not panicking when things are not going according to plan. I
Yeah.
think that inner peace, that inner calm that you find from like the confidence in the love you have for someone, the love you have for your career, your passion, the where you're headed, what you want to
Yeah.
do. Like if you don't have that, then that's that 0 to 1 that I was talking about even about values. Like you've got to get clear on like purpose in life. You've got to get clear on like where what you want to be doing in life on this planet. And
Yeah.
when you can get clear
You
about that
absolutely
stuff,
do.
it becomes easier to trust your love in a moment
Yes.
of panic.
Yes. Absolutely. Clarity is so important
Mm.
through and through and
Talk about
everything,
it.
really. And when you're clear on those things, you can push forward. Um yeah, I love that quote.
Mm.
I may post it somewhere because it really just resonated with me and it applies to just so much. And
Yeah.
love is the thread that, for me, love has been the thread for all the things that are good in my life. Like
Mm.
all of the things. And so when we, when I forget that, that's when it's real chaos, like I have to keep that at the forefront of my mind
Yeah.
because all the things, literally all the things that are good, they've all stemmed from and at their core are drenched in love. So yeah.
Drenched in love.
Mm.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. Well, I
So
feel like this could be inspiring for like a song, like that quote could be like an
yeah.
inspiration for a song or
Yes.
something, or who knows. Olive,
Look at
I love
that.
you. You know what? I got
Ellen's
you,
gonna get a
Olive.
songwriting credit. I'm gonna send her a
Hey!
split sheet. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, guys, I am on my way to an EGOT. Is that how it
Listen,
works?
okay? That's how that's how it works. She already got the Emmy, the Oscar, Tonys, I
Yes.
don't know. But
Uh,
I don't know what we're doing there. But Grammy, yeah.
yeah, for sure. I'm like, can you get
For
a
sure.
Tony? Can you get a Tony for doing like an on-stage performance of like stand up? I feel like you should. Or maybe not even stand up, like a one-woman
I feel
show.
like you should.
I feel
I
like
mean,
I
yeah,
could do a
why not?
one-woman show and
You could
get
do a
and get a
one woman
Tony for
show.
that, right?
Has anyone ever gotten a Tony? That's something to research.
If anyone's gotten a one-woman show Tony, probably not, but
Yeah,
that's just like,
yeah.
the
Yeah, probably
patriarchy
not.
probably.
But has there been one for a one man show?
I don't know. Why maybe
That's
for
really
vagina
that's
monologues. That one was pretty pretty
Oh,
prominent when it
I've
came
heard of
out.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
one, like, kind of made waves.
Of course.
Um, yeah, I'd have to look into that. Maybe we'll see. Maybe that I'll find out. But that's also something I think about, not to spin off into another topic as we're coming to a close, which is typical of this podcast.
That's what we do.
Uh, but I do think a lot about like how there are so many like awards to receive when you are achieving
Mm,
in these like creative fields. And
yeah,
creativity is so subjective, and
it
creating and
is.
putting things out into the world. A lot of people derive the joy from creating in the studio. A lot of people derive joy from like being on stage and performing, whether that's, going on tour
Mhm.
musically, or whether that's like actors, comedians on stage, or like, Tony acting on stage, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
then to have this like ultimate, like, and now you've won this award, as if this thing is the thing that
That
legitimizes you or
validates.
validates the experience, where booking the first paid acting thing validates your
It
pursuit of
already
being an
validated.
actor, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
just saying I am an actor, going to acting class, like all that stuff. Like the same thing of like being a singer. I'm a
Mhm.
singer. I'm putting out music. I'm
Yeah.
performing. Like I'm getting paid to perform. Like these are all validating things. Like you can go your whole life with all of
Right.
those things without a Grammy and
Yeah.
still be completely valid. You know what I mean?
I love that, and I'm gonna talk about my guy Drake because I don't know if he's always been of this mindset about not
Mm,
getting a Grammy, but I think it's interesting that now, me on the other hand, I have always aspired to have Grammys. Okay, 2 or more for me.
yeah.
But but I think it's amazing that when I was younger, I didn't know what it took, to get a Grammy or how that even worked. Now, obviously, I have a much better understanding, more thorough understanding of it. But it's beautiful and it's admirable when people
Mm,
really just are like, I'm doing this, I'm not doing this for a Grammy. And I also don't believe that all of the artists who are out here, getting Grammys are making their collections and works of art for
for
that
that.
Grammy, but I think you owe it to yourself, like me. Like, I'm just like, now that I know and the veil has been removed from what it takes to get a Grammy and how that whole thing works, I'm just like, okay. But I
Mm.
I owe it to like the little girl in me who always watched the Grammys and saw these
Mhm.
people go on stage and, get this award. Like that's still in me, like
Yeah.
I just and I know what that did for me.
Mm.
Because so it's not so much like, oh, me getting the award is about, me, but it's like you when people see you and they can refer to your body of work and say like, wow, I aspire to make something that impactful the way that
Yeah.
album or that piece impacted my life or helped me through this time. And I'm happy that that person got this type of thing. And
Yeah.
in one way I think people could look at it like, oh, you're just doing this because, for a vanity thing or because you need people to tell you that it's good or whatever. But it's also just like because creativity is so subjective, it also, and if you want to call it validation, I guess, but I think there's a reward beyond just doing the thing that people feel when it's just like, okay, wow, I'm doing what I've been called to do, but I also to be recognized and to be rewarded, it's important, and to
Yeah.
have that moment, I think is crucial.
Mhm.
Unlike a sports event where it's just like, oh, they got the most points, they won. That's a clear winner type
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. No,
But with
I
art, you can't. And it's just like, well, how can we recognize this person for
mhm.
the way that they've contributed and followed their passion,
Yeah.
you know?
I know it's a very interesting thing, because I think it has a lot to do with the person's perception of that validation. Like
Yes.
there's so many people, like I think it was Bon Iver, who like just didn't even
Mhm.
show up for the Grammy that he won. He was like, I have no interest in this.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, then see, that doesn't make sense to me because you have to submit. You have to be considered. Like, it's
well,
not
then
like they
he's
can
fake.
had you.
That is so
That's
true then. No, that's true. Maybe
that's
his
my
label
understanding. Like,
submitted
you
for
have to
him.
say Maybe that could be
You
it.
know, like like
It could
other
be his
people
label.
like did all the things and he's
Right.
just like, "Okay, cool, do it." Like, means
Do it,
something to you
right.
guys. It doesn't mean anything to
You
me. I'm
go
not going to
accept it,
go.
please.
Yeah, like you know what I mean? Like there is that
Yeah.
like I don't I don't need this validation. It
Mhm.
exists and people will want it. Some people need it, some people want it. It exists. There's more than just, me on this planet.
Yeah.
And maybe that's in his mind. He's like, I don't
Maybe.
understand it, but I don't need it. But then there's other
Right.
people who are like, no, that's how I receive, that I've
Mhm.
achieved something. I think again,
Yeah.
I think it comes back to like just different types of people and personalities. It's the same reason why like salespeople do well because they have a direct like sight into like, I sold this, I made this amount of money, I got this commission, I did this.
Yeah.
It's very like cause and effect, right?
Yes.
Whereas then
Yeah.
there's other careers and there's other ways of working that like there's different types of like validation or like why you need to hear
Yeah.
from person that they love you versus just them like cooking you dinner, because there's
Right. Or
different
showing
styles
up
of
for you
receiving.
and mhm.
Exactly. So it's like the different personalities that exist of like I need a Tony award. I need to get
Right.
a Tony so I know that I'm worth Tony level work. And then there's other people who are
Mm.
like I'm so flabbergasted and so just like it's enough for me to see my name in a playbill. Like
Yeah.
that means I have made like to me
That's
that's I've made it.
exactly.
And
Right.
and it just depends on, people or maybe
Right.
you know, coming in the back door to a stage, like that means something to me. Like
That's
I'm supposed to be
something.
here, who knows?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
there is a there it all
It's
comes
a whole
it
myriad of things that
but it
could
comes
do
down
it
to
for
like you
people.
do need to know yourself. And that comes back down
Yes.
to like having that trust and that due north and that love and
Yeah.
that who are you and what direction you and I am someone who is always endeavoring to like know myself better and be
Yeah.
clearer on who I am. And I also recognize that like not everybody like does that or wants to do that.
Mhm.
But I would say that there is like almost like a balance of like, okay, to not know yourself and to kind of live in a bit of like that hamster wheel of this, like,
Mhm.
that maybe you're not looking at things and maybe then you're not finding things that you become dissatisfied with, or maybe you're dissatisfied, but you kind of push them away because you just don't want to do that. Then there's
Yeah.
the other side of the pendulum where like you uncover and overturn every stone and are really like endeavoring to learn more about yourself. It's just who you are as a person. And I don't think that, I used to be like, God, like ignorance is bliss. Like, what if I didn't
Mm.
think about this? What if I didn't like
Yeah.
dive in and want to know myself more and I didn't cause me like sometimes more problems and stress and maybe it
Right.
caused me maybe it helps me grow in a lot of ways. And it's
Mhm.
like I don't and I've come to this headspace of like I don't think either thing is right or wrong. I think it just depends on
Yeah.
like or the right way or the best way. I just think it depends on who you are as a person and like what you need. And that knowing yourself enough to know what you need I think is enough,
Yeah.
whether that's going
Absolutely.
and mining and figuring out your values and creating a system and like making decisions through that and constantly checking in with yourself and making sure that you're on the right path, or knowing that like I'm not interested in any of that, but I am very happy in what I'm doing over here. Like I think just
Mhm.
knowing yourself enough to find peace is important.
Absolutely.
Don't
That's
panic.
that's a mic drop right there.
Don't panic.
Yeah.
Did you ever see
Don't
the movie
panic.
Panic Room?
I think so. Long time ago.
It's
That's
an
with
old it's a
Jodie.
yeah, yeah,
Jodie
yeah, Jodie
Foster.
Foster. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an old one. You know who
Yes.
else is in it?
Who?
Kristen Stewart from Twilight as a little girl.
Oh, she was the girl.
She's a
Yeah,
little
yeah, yeah,
girl.
yeah. That's right. Yes.
Don't
That's another
panic.
movie I've never seen.
Wait, I thought you said you have seen it.
Twilight.
No, you just remember.
Twilight.
Oh,
No, Twilight.
I've never seen Twilight. I
I
just
was
did a
never
watch
interested
along
in
with
that.
well, not a watch along. I just like watched it with my friends.
Really?
Yeah, we watched it. Like I've seen it like a million times. I've seen all of them a
It
million
had
times.
a whole era. Oh
Oh
my
yeah. But it
gosh.
was so funny because we were all sitting together watching it and everyone just has like these different perspectives. And then
Yeah.
me and my one friend who've seen it a million times were kind of like the guides for everybody of like, this is what's gonna happen, that's gonna happen. Well, did you know this is what happened in the real world? It was kind of like when I watched Fast and Furious with my brother-in-law, like how he
Oh
had all the
yeah.
tea.
He had all
And
the
it was
info.
just
Yeah.
so funny because like some of my friends would point out and be like, huh, That's interesting that they did that. That seems like they're really pushing a narrative of like X, Y, or Z. And then I haven't watched it like with like an analytical mind in so long. And like,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like I just watch it and it's just like fun cotton candy. But then like I'm watching it again and my friend was like pointing out like, huh, that's interesting. Or did you see this? Did you think of that?
We love when Ellen puts her hands on her hips. Huh. And
Huh,
tilts her head to the side.
huh.
Huh.
know I'm doing it. I'm just like, huh. But yeah, it was
Oh
really,
my
it was
gosh.
very, it was interesting to kind of look at it with like new, fresh eyes, even like, whoa,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
very
That's a
interesting. I would recommend
oof.
revisiting one of those types
Twilight.
of, well, just yeah, I highly recommend Twilight.
Okay. All right.
It's just the best of the worst. It's so good.
Thank you.
It's the
That's I mean, no, never mind. No comment.
No, I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, you're not just gonna, like, sit down and be like, "Yeah, let me, like, watch this
Let's
movie." It's
watch
like
Twilight.
yeah, it's like it's gotta be, like, kind of a thing. Like, "Oh, let's,
Yes,
like,
it
watch
does.
Twilight," you know?
It definitely has to be a
Yeah,
thing.
it was fun for us. We were like, "Yeah, let's, like"
Yeah,
you guys have
yeah.
never
A
seen this
group of
one?
you
Like
guys, like that's great.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it was very fun. It was very and it was so funny. My one friend was like, "Okay, everybody gets one pause," because we kept pausing it
Yeah.
to, like, talk
It's too
about whatever
much.
someone wanted to know, and then my friend was like, "1 pause. Everybody gets 1 pause." And I was just like, "There's no
Use it
way. You
wisely.
can't do a 1 pause.
Right.
We're just gonna talk through it. If you missed it, read the subtitles." Like, I don't know what to tell
Right,
you.
right, right.
So funny.
Oh,
Oh
man.
my god. Well, on that note,
Well,
go watch Twilight, go
Twilight.
watch Panic Room, and
Very
don't
different
panic.
from If Beale Street Could Talk,
I know.
but
Go watch oh yeah.
go
Go
watch
watch If
that.
Beale Street Could Talk. If you haven't seen it, it is very much like
Yes.
worth the watch.
Absolutely worth the
Yeah.
watch. So thought-provoking,
Yeah.
so gut-wrenching.
Beautifully shot. Beautifully
Oh my
shot.
goodness.
It
It's
looks
very nice.
it looks just it's very compelling.
Yeah, it's a
Love
great
it.
film. Really great.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yes, we'll say the quote
Yep.
one
Give us the
more
quote one more
time,
time.
just to leave
Okay,
on that note to
everybody.
let it reverberate.
Yep.
Quote, just remember, love brought you here. If you've trusted love this far, don't panic now.
Mm.
Mm.
Don't panic now.
Well, don't panic. Don't panic. Well,
But I
ladies
feel like
and
there's some
gentlemen,
fun music that you could don't panic. Don't panic.
there's a
Don't
song
panic. Don't
where they
panic.
say
Like,
don't
I don't
panic,
know. Is
but I
there?
don't know what it is. Yeah,
Well,
there
forget
is.
them because we have a writing credit. I have a writing credit now
Forget
and I'm
that.
very invested.
She is pushing for
I
this,
start
this
sending you
split
like
sheet,
lyrics
okay?
and you're like, Ellen,
Right.
enough, enough. You see me here?
Ellen,
I'm singing
chill. Chill.
don't panic. Don't, it's not even like on brand.
Oh my gosh. I can't.
Just
On
do
that
like this
note,
weird jazz
guys.
swing. Don't panic. Don't I'm going to start wheezing.
Meanwhile, I am panicking because I don't know what's happening over
She's
there.
literally
And I'm
like, "Oh my god,
scared.
Ellen, like you'll
Ellen's
never be
really, she's
allowed in the
losing it.
studio when I'm making an album. You're slowly becoming less and less invited to those
Less
music
and less. The
studio
invitation
sessions."
is becoming more and more distant. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thanks everybody so much for listening. I'm glad that
Yes,
we could
yes.
connect and talk again this week. If you like the podcast, like, share, comment, subscribe, text us. My friend
Follow
texted me
us.
the other day and told me, she was like, "I've been meaning to tell you, I've been listening to the podcast. It's really good." I was like,
Oh,
thank
we
you. I
love
had no idea you were listening.
it.
Now
These are
share
the
it with
views that
people.
we're getting. That listen,
That's the big
Ellen will
one.
come for you. Okay,
I will
she
literally.
sure will.
I'm coming
So,
back to the East Coast soon and I will come for you. Share the
yeah,
podcast.
you're on a timeline, a deadline.
Love
So,
it. Thank
wow.
you guys so much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. All
All
right.
right. That's it.
Next time.
Bye. The Regents podcast. The Regents podcast. Don't panic.